Let's
get
away.
started.
It's like
A little bit emotional. I used to live around the corner. Then I moved and I haven't been back to New York in about 19 years. So it's good to be back. I'm going to give a very short general introduction. Why are we here? Who are we? And then we're just going to get to the news. Okay? So I'd like to welcome everybody. In early 2020, a loosely affiliated group of poets was planning to meet up in New York City to give a joint reading at the New York Public Library. Then the pandemic struck. That reading never happened. 4 years later, here we are. Many of us meeting for the first time in person today. 8 poets are reading their work tonight, hence the name Octave, a term of octave of both poetry and music. It feels apt. I'd like to begin by thanking those whose participation and collaboration have made this event possible. Co-readers Barbara Crooker, Maria Lisella, Betsy, Donna Masini, Aaron Poochigian, Bonnie Proudfoot, and Alan Walowitz. I'm proud to share this stage with you tonight and humbled by your presence. We've all come a long way, even those who've come from around the block. Thanks to Frank Galerius and his colleagues at the New York Public Library for opening their doors to us. Without you, this evening wouldn't be possible. Thanks also to the many others for their support and guidance in organizing this event, and to those of you who've chosen to spend a few hours of your life with us tonight. Without you, this evening wouldn't be possible. Now, my friend Alan Walowitz will introduce our first poet of the evening.
We're very creative. We've done this in alphabetical order. First, Barbara Crooker is author of 10 full-length books of poetry. Slow Wreckage from Grayson Books, 2024. Some Glad Mornings, Pitt Poetry Series. Long listed for the Julie Sook Award, and the Book of Kells from Cascade Books, winner of the Best Poetry Book of 2019 award from Poetry by the Sea. The fantastic Barbara Crooker.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, this has to go way down. We're using a high-tech instrument tonight to keep us on track called the kitchen timer. I want to thank everyone who's made this possible. I will mention, well, Marc came from Rome, or some other place generally. Perugia. I came from Allentown, Pennsylvania. A little less exotic, but hey. And I'm just delighted to be here tonight and thank everyone who helped this happen. So I'm going to read a little bit from my new book. I'm going to start with a poem which I'm actually going to dedicate to Marc because he likes food poems. Way, way back in the ancient times when I was a child, the idea of eating mussels was like totally foreign. Nobody ate things like that. You didn't eat things that didn't come from the supermarket. So, mussels. My parents rented a small house by the sea. It was the 50s, and this was a stretch for them. It wasn't on the ocean, but several blocks inland, and not the Atlantic itself, but Long Island Sound. A brackish stream sullenly nudged nearby, the smell of pluff mud enough to bring me back. My immigrant grandmother came every year. She knew the art of making do, led us in the hunt for steamer clams, look for the squirts or holes in the sand, scuttling crabs and mussels, those hard blue nuggets we plucked from the rocks at low tide. Strangers gathered around us, wondered what were we doing. Food came from the supermarket, a new abundance after the war, not the damp sand. What on earth will you do with them? they asked, not knowing how they would transform in the kettle's steam into something sweet and delicious, glistening with olive oil, nuggets of garlic, a splash of wine, making the bed of linguini sing. Our family wasn't an easy one. My father's anger always on the back burner, my mother and grandmother in conflict in the kitchen, but here we earned our dinner foraging together. We twirled our forks in the tangled strands and dug in. Some of the themes in this book are aging and the body and climate change and the death of the planet. It's a comedy. Okay, I'm going to dedicate this one to Karen because it's Queens. And there's a person in this poem who's not here tonight. Some of you might know Maria Terone, and she's the person I was going to visit. So it has an epigraph from Ram Dass. We are all just walking each other home. Queens. I hadn't taken the subway in 50 years, not since I was an undergraduate, and I was nervous. Back then, it was hard to navigate as graffiti and peace signs covered up the maps. But a friend from Queens wanted to meet for lunch, so I took a deep breath and set out, clutching the email she'd sent with directions. Of course, yeah, now the maps are electronic, not really broken, and easy to read. But her station was confusing, a maze of underground passages, and she'd warned me I'd have to walk some distance if I went up the wrong stairs. So I stood there, trying to align her text, match her words to the nearby stores. An elderly East Asian woman asked, "You lost?" She snatched the paper from my hand. "Okay, follow me." Wielding her cane like a weapon, she pushed pedestrians out of the way, held it up like a banner as we crossed against the light. She pointed out the good fruit stands, wagged her fingers at the bad ones, ignored the storefronts with elaborate gold jewelry. She was my Italian grandmother with a different skin. When we reached our destination, she gave me back my papers. "Turn here. Friend lives there." And when I turned back to thank her, she was gone. Above in the stunted city trees, the wind through the leaves, the sound of rustling wings. And I know we all want to go home and watch the debate tonight. I'm telling you, I just sort of wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm not going to apologize. So this one, which has an epigraph from Walt Whitman. Still here, I carry my old delicious burdens. Walt Whitman from the Song of the Open Road. Who do you carry? For years, I carried my mother, though she grew lighter and lighter, letting go of her possessions with every move, until at the end, there were only her clothes left to be bagged for goodwill. Untethered by her oxygen tank, she floated away. Today I carry my son, whose body is an adult, but whose mind is a small child's. My burden, his future when I am gone, is heavy. The social safety net ripped, holes big enough to sail a boat through. On city streets, the homeless unfurled their sleeping bags like hungry tongues. The lucky ones have tents in a vacant lot. How have we come to this, Walt Whitman? It's the 21st century in America. Can you still hear us singing? I'm a lyric poet, which is again why I'm a little disturbed about the death of nature. So even though this is a political poem, it takes place in a very natural outside surroundings, which is, and I don't know if you know about things like this living in the city, but a U-pick fruit orchard where you can go, okay, that's what it's called, U-pick. Hot July morning, the sun, a burner left on high, raspberries, beveled treasures, sour pie cherries, ruby globes filling the cardboard picking box. I'm by myself, listening to the clatter of my neighbors in adjoining rows. Some of us are up on ladders, some down in the brambles and briars. We all think we're in high heaven after the long winter, late cold spring. If this were a protest march, would a few be carrying opposite signs, shouting invectives? Maybe so, but we're here in this small orchard, sharing recipes, tips on preserves, how to make a good pie. We cradle our baskets as if they contain unruly jewels. And then we go our separate ways, licked by the thick tongue of the sun to bring some sweetness to our families, blinking our blind eyes in the multilingual light. And one of the sections in this book, which I'm not going to read, but is the first poem is, all of my poems lately are elegies. And that is, I think, one of the hardest parts about getting older. Poem is topical, and now it's September, and the garden diminishes. Cucumber leaves rumpled and rusty, zucchini felled by boars, tomatoes sparse on the vines. But out in the perennial beds, there's one last blast of color. Ignitions of goldenrod, flamboyant asters, spiraling mums, all those flashy spikes waving in the wind, conducting summer's final notes. The ornamental grasses have gone to seed, haloed in the last light. Nights grow chilly, but the days are still warm. I wear the sun like a shawl on my neck and arms. Hundreds of blackbirds ribbon in, settle in the trees, so many black leaves, then, just as suddenly, they're gone. This is autumn's great departure gate, and everyone, boarding passes in hand, waits patiently in a long, long line. And then this is the last one I'll read. I like to leave you with a smile going out, but this was written at the BCCA. Late Night Martinis. I will confess I have 2 martini poems in my previous book, and one of them out beyond the ambient light, glass of gin, rumor of vermouth, a few olives. We're sitting on black wrought iron lawn chairs, talking poetry and friendship, love and loss. Above us, the indifferent stars glitter cold white. A chorus of coyotes calls from the woods. We're told we come from spindrift and stardust, no doubt about the dust to which we will return. Those stars are set in their patterns. There's a ladle, a dragon, a celestial belt. We wobble in our orbits, unsure and alone. Will there be a gathering by the river or a blank nothing at the end of the day? My long stem glass, which now is half empty, seems to me half full.